Shalom to everybody from Jerusalem. It's my pleasure to introduce Major General Yaakov Amidrov. He is Anne and Greg Rossander Senior Fellow at the Jerusalem Institute for Strategy and Security. General Amidrov was National Security Advisor to Prime Minister Netanyahu and Chairman of the National Security Council 2011-2013. He served for 36 years in senior IDF positions, including commander of the military college, including the National Defense College, Staff and Command College, and Tactical Command Academy. He was also military secretary to the Minister of Defense, director of the Intelligence and Analysis Division and Military Intelligence, and Chief Intelligence Officer of the Northern Command. He is also a distinguished fellow at the JISS Gemunder Center. He's the author of 3 books on intelligence and military strategy, and he published recently at JISS, Israel's National Security Doctrine. And he will brief us this evening, on Hezbollah challenges Israel.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity. I want to give you at the end some time, of course, to ask questions, but you cannot understand Hezbollah and Israel relations without giving the frame of the Middle East situation of today. In the Middle East today, there are 2 main forces, or 3. One is the status quo countries, like the Gulf countries, Egypt, Jordan, all of them Sunnis, by the way, and there are under the ground religious forces like the Muslim Brotherhood, Al-Qaeda, ISIS in some areas, and so on, and they are very active in areas in which the control of the country system is very weak. You can see them very active in parts of eastern Syria, for example. They are still strong in Egypt, but under the ground, because the Egyptian system is fighting them openly, and there are some remnants of Muslim Brotherhood in Jordan under control, but these are not the forces which are making the difference in the Middle East of today. Today, it is between the status quo countries, Arab countries, Sunni countries, and Iran. And Iran is the most aggressive factor in the Middle East of today. And it is very interesting to learn why and to understand where Hezbollah is part of these Iranian efforts. When the Iranians when the regime was changed in '79, they spoke about exporting the revolution. And at the beginning, we didn't understand what they mean. And slowly it was understood that what they have in mind is a change in the Middle East which will be based on 3 different elements. One, they succeeded, they made the efforts, and they succeeded to organize most of the Shiite communities behind Iran. And Iran today is not just, it's not a state which is representing Iran interest. It tried to show everyone and to bring in all the Shiites and to represent the Shiite issue in the Middle East. And there are Shiites, it's a minority in the Middle East, it's only 15%. Of course, Iran is a majority Shiite state. Not everyone in Iran is a Shiite, but is the majority, the vast majority. It's the biggest sect in Iraq. It's very little in Syria, and it's the biggest sect in Lebanon. There are Shiites in some areas in Saudi Arabia, but this is the area in which the Shiites spread in the Middle East. There are Shiites in the east side and in India, but they are not connected to the picture of the Middle East of today. Iran is keeping relations with them, but it is not part of the Middle East. And when they spoke about exporting the revolution, they meant that they want to organize the Shiites behind Iran, that Iran will be the leader of the Shiites in the Middle East. And the way to do it is to make the Shiites understand that Iran is taking care for the Shiite interest in those countries. And the Shiites are kind of in alignment with Iran when it is coming to the interests of Iran. The most successful place for this idea, for this ideology, was Lebanon, because they have influence and there are Shiite militias in Iraq, but the community in Iraq is strong enough and they have leaders which do not like the intervention of the Iranians in the Iraqi domestic issues. In Lebanon, from the beginning, it was very clear success of the Iranians to recruit the Shiites to work with Iran. And there are very few voices within the Shiite community. As I said, it's the biggest sect community in Lebanon, which spoke against the strong relations with Iran. And from the beginning, the secretary of Hezbollah was a very important figure in building these relations between the Lebanese Shiite community and Iran. And today, Nasrallah, the secretary of Hezbollah, is the personal envoy of the leader of Iran in Lebanon. So he has two hats. One is secretary of a Shiite movement called Hezbollah, which was built, organized, financed, and so on by Iran. But he has also a personal relations directly to the leader of Iran, because he is personal envoy in Lebanon. So when there are problems or Nasrallah has some issues with the Iranians, or the Iranians have some issues with Nasrallah, Nasrallah can apply and the Iranians can apply to him directly between him and the leader of Iran. So it is, and Hezbollah became the strongest organization in Lebanon. Other than the army, it's the only organization that can carry weapon and has a strong military presence in Lebanon. And you can see Hezbollah messengers all around the Middle East. They are involved with the Shiites in Iraq. They are involved with the Houthis in Yemen. They trained the Hamas in Lebanon, and are very much involved, of course, in Western Iraq, when it's kind of a hub for the Iranians when they are moving logistic from Iraq to Syria and then to Lebanon. So Hezbollah, in a way, it's a tool of the Iranians all around the Middle East, but no question that the strongest place that the Iranians have a real strong footprint is Hezbollah in Lebanon. And in a way, Lebanon controlled by Hezbollah, even when there is a president in Lebanon. Today they don't have a president because all the candidates were not approved by Hezbollah, and Hezbollah candidate was not approved by the others, and according to the constitution they need number of members of the parliament to vote and to elect the president. So they don't have the president. Think about the United States of America without a president. The president is a very important figure in implementation of the constitution, and he's a very active president. It's not like I don't know, king. He's a real active figure in the system. And today they don't have an president because there is no agreement between Hezbollah and all the other faction in Lebanon. So Hezbollah is at the same time a Lebanese organization, but for the Iranians, it's the long hand of the Iranians. They use the organization all over the Middle East, the expertise, the know-how, and so on, for other Shiite militias. And in a way, this is the most important part of the Iranian deterrence. And here it is coming to the relations with Israel. What the Iranians had in mind relating to Hezbollah as an Iranian tool, leave alone the question of how they use them to spread the revolution around the Middle East. Vis-a-vis Israel, the Hezbollah is the most important element to deter Israel from acting against the Iranians. If you take an Iranian leader or someone who is much involved in the policy, and you ask him about why did you build the Hezbollah? Why it is so important for you? I think that the first answer will be, we want to deter the Israelis from attacking Iran because we want to continue with the nuclear project. And we found a way. We brought these capabilities of Hezbollah very close to the border with Israel. Iran is far away, very hard to reach. And we, by that, are telling the Israelis, guys, if you attack Iran, you will have on your front, on your back door, 100,000 rockets and missiles that will be used against you. So if you make the calculation to attack Iran or not to attack Iran, it's not about Iran retaliation. This is an important part, but not the most important part. The real retaliation will come from a place which is very close to you. And what answer do you have for more than 100,000 rockets and missiles? And today, more and more are becoming very accurate because they have the whole process of progressing their ability to launch precise weapon systems. So from the Iranian point of view, Hezbollah is not, the importance of Hezbollah is not about Lebanon. It's not about the fact they succeeded to export the revolution to Lebanon and they organized the Shiite community to cooperate with the Iranians, and the Iranians have a huge influence in Lebanon through Hezbollah. No, it is about the ability of Iran to ignite when it will be needed Hezbollah, and Hezbollah will have the ability to launch 100,000 rockets and missiles into Israel. By the way, the Iranians had a broader dream to build a ring of fire around Israel. And in the last almost 11 years, what we are doing is to destroy every day and night. Just tonight, according to foreign sources, Israel was very active in Syria, is to destroy the second element of the ring of fire. If the first one was the abilities of Hezbollah, which controlled indirectly by Iran, the second attempt was to build military capabilities controlled directly by Iran in Syria, using the chaos in Syria to build an Iranian military capability. And when we understood it, we decided we are not going to make the same mistake that we did in Lebanon. And in the last 11 years, whenever we have an information, whenever we can militarily, we are using kinetic force to destroy the attempt of the Iranians to build the second element of the ring of fire. The third element is Hamas, and more important for the Iranians, Islamic Jihad in Gaza. They are relatively successful, but we succeeded because it is not as big as Hezbollah to contain it. But if the Iranians will put pressure on Islamic Jihad, no question that they will act against us. How it will lead to a bigger operation with the Hamas inside or not, this is a good question that I don't have an answer to. But these are the three main elements of the Ring of Fire. The fourth one was the Houthis in Yemen, that we know that they are preparing to launch into Eilat area some of their capabilities. It's not so big, but it's coming from far away and very problematic to identify and to intercept. And they might use some capabilities that they have in Western Iraq, because this is far away again and not easy to identify. Although because the direction that it is coming, it's easier to intercept than the Houthis, which are coming from the south. So this element of the Ring of Fire, they have very important success that they can say, yes, we did what we had in mind. It's in Lebanon, Hezbollah. They didn't make even 24% of what they had in mind in Syria, not because they don't try, because we are bombing it time and again. And they have elements in Gaza Strip that they are not fully controlled. They control the Islamic Jihad, they don't control the Hamas, but they might use it or try to use it, and if they succeed, it will complicate our situation. But back to Hezbollah, Hezbollah is the strongest part of the Ring of Fire. What is the problem of Hezbollah today? And then I'll let you to ask a question. Because of some decisions that we did, some of them might be mistakes, some of them we couldn't make other decisions relating to the challenge that we faced. In the last year and a half, what we see is that I begin it with the attempt of the Iranians to send drones into the gas rigs in the Mediterranean, which we didn't retaliate. And then when we signed the agreement with the Lebanese relating to the gas field, which was more than half in Lebanon side and less than half in our side, we gave up all our territorial demands, in spite of the fact that we have some good arguments. I understand why the government decided to do it, because that was a month before the end of the term of the president of Lebanon, and we thought that they will not have a president, and no one will have the capability to sign the agreement if he is not the president. Anyhow, that was the decision, and then the Hezbollah succeeded to infiltrate. One Hezbollah guy infiltrated to Israel and put explosives in the 70 kilometers south of the border with Lebanon, an important junction in Israel, Megiddo Junction, and one Israeli was injured. The irony that he is an Arab-Israeli guy, but it doesn't matter. If the guy which was killed on his way back to Lebanon was more capable, he could kill 10 Israelis with the explosives that he had and which he put in the junction. And Israel didn't retaliate in Lebanon, just symbolically, and all the retaliation was in Syria. So they understood that we have, and other incidents near the fence of the border, that we understand that Nasrallah thinks that Israel is not ready to take the measures which are needed to retaliate. Why? Part of it is the problems within Israel, part of it is because he succeeded to build deterrence measures and so on and so forth. The question is why is not so important. What important is the situation. The situation is today that if you judge by the actions of Hezbollah near the borders fence, it is clear that Hezbollah is ready to take more risks than in the past, based on the judgment or the assessment that Israel is not ready to take military actions against Hezbollah, because that might lead to if it deteriorate to a big operation that Israel is not ready to go into it. The truth is that probably, as far as we can judge from the knowledge that we have, it's not the interest of Nasrallah as well, but is ready to take more risks than in the past based on his judgment, the determination of the Israeli government. And here stands the main problem. The main problem is that you never know what might happen when you are entering to such a game. Think about the situation that the explosive in the Megiddo Junction was not just, and the result was not just one Israeli injured, but 10 Israelis killed in a bus and another 10 injured. You understand that there was not any way that the Israeli government will not retaliate forcefully in Lebanon. And that might accelerate to a big operation that Israel doesn't want and Nasrallah doesn't want. And that's what I mean, is ready to take risks that in the past he was not ready to take. This is the best example. Think about an incident near the fence border. We are shooting, killing 2 Hezbollah, which are going to try to harm one of our device on the fence. And we identify them and kill 2 of them. He will have to retaliate. And if he have to retaliate, we will have to retaliate. And then it is, we say in Hebrew, it's going chair and coming a table. And you don't know how you stop, if you can stop. So this is the main problem of the situation of today. It's not that Nasrallah wants to go to a big operation. We know for sure that it does. And we don't know. We don't want. It's not our interest. And Israel is the domestic problems within Israel. It's not easy to make a decision. But he might make a wrong judgment about where Israel stands, and by doing something that will make results that cannot be ignored by the government, like the one Israeli was injured in this junction, but something big that cannot be ignored by the government, that might lead to a big operation. Big operation today, just to give you the impression, means that Israel will be launched thousands of missiles and rockets every day. Yes, we have Iron Dome, we have David Sling, we have Arrow, we have fantastic anti-missile system, but thousands of rockets and missiles per day, it's too big for the defense capabilities that we have. And we will have to prioritize our efforts. We cannot defend everything in such a situation. The more accurate weapons that they will use, the more facilities, sensitive facilities in Israel will be destroyed. Think about electricity, water, communication, command and control system, whatever. So we will make all the efforts to defend those facilities first. So the number of missiles and rockets which will be launched into populated areas will be huge, and many Israelis will be killed, and we will have to go to a big operation in Lebanon, which will be ended with thousands of Lebanese, which will be killed because we will have to destroy the missiles that at least 50% of them stored by Hezbollah under citizens' home. In many basements in Lebanon, there are missiles waiting just to the command to be launched. Our intelligence, if we succeed to identify them, we will have to make the the decision will be clear. We will destroy them under those houses. Think about a house of 7 stores under which there are 3 missiles, each of them 300 kilo. It's 1 ton of TNT. Add to that the TNT which will be launched in our with our bomb, and you will find yourself with 1.5 ton of TNT under this house. You understand that when we will blow the missiles, the whole building will disappear. How many Lebanese will be killed? Thousands of Lebanese. It will be a devastating war for us and for them. How it will be ended, I don't know, because if those are the damages that will happen inside Israel, the government will be forced to continue and to try to achieve something in the war. To achieve something in the war means we have to go with ground forces. Ground forces means another means that will destroy at least South Lebanon. So it will be a devastating war for us and for them. No one wants it now. But based on the misjudgment of Nasrallah, it might happen only because they succeed in the first act and Israel will be forced to retaliate. So this is the situation of today. It's not that we identify actions of Hezbollah to begin tomorrow morning or in the next week or in the next month, not at all. But the capabilities are there, and the misunderstanding of the Israeli democratic system is there as well. And what miscalculation Nasrallah will do, it's a question that we don't have an answer. Through, of course, many access that we have, we try to warn him and to tell him that he will pay a high price. We are saying it publicly, but not only publicly. And but I don't know how will he decide. Up till the last year, he was a very cautious guy, maybe the most cautious guy in the Middle East. I used to say, don't kill him, because he is preventing any attempt of the extremists in his side to do something against Israel. But based on the present risk that he is ready to take, we might think in other terms, and to be better prepared. The situation is not helping us because we have to put many forces in the West Bank, in which there are many attempts of terrorism. From the beginning of the year, I think that 35 Israelis were killed in the West Bank. The average number in the previous year, since 2006, for the next 15 years, it was 15. So it is more than doubled in the last year. Why? It's a good question. No one has a good answer to the question, but it's a fact on the ground that we have to take into account when we are pouring forces into the West Bank to try to calm the situation, which is not easy, and it is coming on no free lunch. The forces are less trained because they have to be very active in the West Bank, in the Judah and Samaria. So this is the situation of today. I'm more than happy to answer questions, and if you have, and I'm sure that you have, please feel free to ask.
Please, if you have a question, please unmute yourself and ask a question. You can unmute yourself on your own computer.
You mentioned that Israel made a mistake earlier on and allowed Hezbollah to establish itself in Lebanon. What was the politics of the time that permitted that?
Democratic countries, it's very hard to recruit and to legitimize a war that can be prevented. And it was the decision that we made in when we understood the ring of fire in Syria. That was the argument around the table. Okay, we attack one and twice and 3 times, and then Israel is ready to go to a war. That was the question around the table, and the strongest argument was, if we don't do it, we will find ourselves in a situation in which we have Lebanese capabilities in Syria as well. So what is the alternative? And we understood that it is a very bad alternative, and because we used the chaotic situation in Syria was very weak after it was not even the end of the war, the domestic inside Syria. So we decided to prevent that from happening in Syria based on the experience that we had in Lebanon. And in Lebanon, the question was very, very problematic. Do the Israelis are ready to go to another operation, big operation, just to prevent the Iranians to build something which might be used against Israel in the next, I don't know when. So the last big operation was in 2006. It is 17 years now from the operation. And you can say, okay, you postpone the war, at least for 17 years. It's always the argument, do you let the other side to build its capabilities and postpone the war? And you have big, long time between operations or big operations or wars, or you act immediately when you identify the other side building its capabilities. It's always on the table, and the decision was in Lebanon to postpone the war, and in Syria to destroy the attempt of the Iranians.
Greg, you wanted to ask? Any other questions?
Yes. Amidor, I've never heard you so pessimistic.
Yeah.
I'm not. By the way, I'm not so pessimistic. And if there were a war between us and Hezbollah, we have the means, the capabilities, and the way to destroy Hezbollah, destroy the military part of Hezbollah, and to make another strategic situation for Israel. It's a bad war because of the devastating results inside Israel and inside Lebanon.
Yeah, I understand that. But there was two questions I wanted to ask. Number one, there was a report in the Jerusalem Post today that within 12 months, the laser anti-missile system should be first deployed, and within 2 years, fairly extensively deployed. So obviously that gives a new capability relative to the volume of missiles we're talking about, as opposed to a physical intercept, number one. Number two, the ring of fire that you talk about, it implies a command control, a level of control and level of response from not actively. In other words, I'm trying to say, it's not like the chief of the Israeli Defense Force telling the chief of the Air Force go and do something, or the army to go and do something. You know, what if they see an Israeli response to one of the theaters? Will that necessarily, just because the Iranians say we need you now to go and make a mess on the other border, will they follow?
I'll begin with the second question. It is a very complicated one. Historically, we never saw that Hezbollah is coming to help Hamas, or Hamas is coming to help Hezbollah. This is the fact. Cannot be ignored, because you have to learn from that. I think that there is one issue which is different, that if we attack in Iran, the Iranians will do whatever is needed to recruit the others. And my assessment is that the pressure on Hezbollah will be such that Hezbollah cannot say no. Can the Iranians put the same pressure on Islamic Jihad? Less than Hezbollah, but still a strong one. Will Hamas join Islamic Jihad to help Iran? Probably not. So I think that your question is that the multi-front scenario is the one which might happen if we attack Iran, if we take Hezbollah, I don't see the Iranians coming and launching from Iran into Israel, because they are ready to fight to the last Hezbollah warrior. They are not ready to sacrifice Iranians for it. So if we attack in Lebanon, it's less than 50% that the Iranians retaliate. If I have to bet, it's 20%. If we attack Iran, it's 90% that we will have to face Hezbollah and probably Islamic Jihad. But I think that the Hamas will not join. So the multilateral front is a complicated question, because it very much depends how and where the war began. It is our initiative against Iran, it's one story. If it is Iranian, it's Hezbollah mistake which deteriorated to operation in Lebanon, it's another story. If it is an operation that we initiated against the Islamic Jihad, is another scenario. I don't see any of those forces intervening. So the answer is very much depends on the scenario. It's a possibility. We are taking it into account. We know how to prioritize our capabilities in such a complicated situation. There are plans on the tables of those who are responsible for the operations. But if you ask me what are the chances that will happen, it very much depends on the scenario, and it's not an easy answer to say yes or no. What was the first question?
Laser.
Yes. Oh, laser is behind the corner. The question is, where is the corner? We made very successful tests. We are we improve what should be improved. We are in the right direction. We know what should be done. When exactly it will be operational in numbers which will make a difference, it's a good question. I believe that during 2024 we will see the first results on the ground, and then slowly we will broaden the network. The laser is fantastic, but there are three main problems. One is weather. Clouds, mist, rain, and so on and so forth are very bad for laser. It cannot be active if there are layer of clouds or mist in the air. Second, unlike the kinetic system in which you shoot it and you leave the hardware to make the work, with the laser you have to go after the target all the time, because it says to burn it. And the meaning of it that you cannot deal with many targets at the same time. So it's more complicated, much more complicated system. And the third challenge is question of range. And here, slowly we can enhance the capabilities by making stronger laser. The idea of the laser at the end, it is, I don't know, 5-10 years from now, that it will be airborne and above the clouds, and then it will be much more effective. But up till that, in a good weather, the laser can make the difference.
Yaakov, could I ask a question?
Yes.
Could I, in relation to Syria, does the status quo still remain with Russia in relation to Syria and Israel? In other words, live and let live, or have things changed? And also, just out of left field, when do you predict an accord between Israel and Saudi Arabia?
Good question.
The second question For the second question, I don't have an answer. I'm not sure the Saudis know. I don't know that Mohammed bin Salman, the coming king, knows the answer, or President Biden knows the answer. So if they don't know the answer to ask me, I mean, it's not fair. I don't know. It is more about the readiness of the Americans to commit and to fulfill the Saudis' demands than what is a contribution to the process. Although Israel has a very important contribution to the process, without which the process cannot continue. Syria. No, there is no any change in the relation between us and the Russians in Syria. It's built on the understanding that we are not attacking or destroying any facility which is important for the continuation of Assad as the ruler of Syria. We are not fighting the regime in Syria. We destroy elements which we identify that have been brought to Syria by the Iranians, either to be transferred into Hezbollah or will be used by the Iranians in Syria. And we limited ourselves. Or if they build something close to the Israeli borders, I mean the Iranians or the Shiite militias, or Hezbollah in some cases. So we are limited ourselves. We don't touch anything which is important for the continuation of the regime survival in Syria, and we are doing whatever is needed not to harm any Russian soldiers. If there are Russian soldiers, we don't attack. And yes, the status quo is continuing. We have a red line, as you know, deconfliction. We are not coordinating, but we try to prevent any mistake or accident. And yes, we continue. Just tonight, according to foreign sources, Israel attacked in the north in Haleb and destroyed the ability of the airport of Haleb to function.
Is there any developments with Turkey?
Yes, slow steps, and I heard that maybe the Prime Minister will visit Turkey, but it will take time. I think that the Turks have a strong interest on that Israel will export its gas through Turkey. This is, I believe, it is something that Israel will not do. We will not let the Turks to control the future of the export of gas from Israel. We decided to extend the export of gas to Egypt. And I think that it would be a huge mistake to sacrifice the relations with the Hellenic countries, with Cyprus and Greece, for enhancing the relations with Turkey. We have to learn from others in the Middle East how you keep both sides happy. With Erdogan, it's not going to be easy, but slowly the relations are, I mean, we are not friends yet, but I probably will not be, but the relations are okay.
Can I go back a little bit with Iran and just ask, this deep-seated hatred of Israel, is it something that permeates society, in your opinion, or is it something that sits just at the top? And why is it so toxic in that attitude?
First of all, in the more orthodox side of the Iranian society, where the Shiites religion sentiment is strong. There is in the Shiites very strong element of despising the Jews, and this is probably the basis for some of the hatred of Israel in Iran. But remember, a Jewish community lived in Iran for 1,000 years, flourishing under the different Iranian systems, with many problems and pogroms and so on and so forth, but not as bad as in Europe. Not good, but not as bad as in Europe. At the beginning of the new regime, there was a strong sentiment against Israel because Israel had a very strong relations with the Savak, the domestic intelligence system, which was very cruel, used by the Shah, by the Iranian rulers against every sentiment of opposition in Iran. And Israel had a very strong relation with this organization. And Israel was, in a way, one of the strongest allies of the Shah. Immediately after the revolution, the sentiment against Israel was built not just on the old religious sentiment, but also on the sentiment against the Shah and what is symbolized for many Iranians, a dictatorship, blah, 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 blah. Was very much connected to Israel. Israel was one of the strongest allies of the Shah towards the end of his regime. Today, I think it is more complicated because it's not just that, it is the regime, very strong attempt to portray Israel as the barrier for the success of Iran in the Middle East. So you have a few elements which together build the hatred for Israel. How deep it is, I think that no one knows. A new regime might change it, and basically, you know, there is a letter which was written by the grandfather of Assad, the son, the one who controls Syria today. He wrote in the 40s a letter to someone and said, at the end of the day in the Middle East, there will be alignment between the minorities. And what are the minorities? The Shiites, the Alawites, the Jews, the Christians. And against whom? Against the majority, the Sunnis, Arabs. And the very good relations that we had with the Shah were built on the understanding of the state of Israel government, that we cannot make agreement with the Arab countries around us. Let's do something which called the alignment of the periphery, to go behind the first string of countries to Iran, Ethiopia, Turkey, and to build something with countries which are not part of the Arab world. And it worked for a few years, but the new regime in Tehran in '79 was immediately against Israel. Israel was the united. It was very easy for him to build his legitimacy within the Arab world by showing no one is against Israel more than us. And after the agreement that was signed by Egypt and Jordan, it was even more important for him to say, no, we are not like that. We do not betray the Palestinians. We do not betray the Arab world. We are not stopping fighting Israel in a way that is the legitimized tool for the Iranian regime. So how deep it is in the society, I don't know. It's a very good question. In the past, there were good relations with Israel and good relations with the Jewish community inside Iran.
Thank you.
Any other question?
Following on Paul's initial premise that you sound depressed and you responded to that. But from what you said, Israel actually can do nothing except build up its defenses and its offensive forces and just wait. The other side decides if anything's going to happen.
First, Israel is doing a lot. We have relations with based on the Arab Accord with new 3 countries, Morocco, Bahrain, and the Emirates. We have under the table, as you know, last time that I flew to Australia, I flew back through Bangkok over Saudi Arabia with Elad. And you know about the plans to have a direct flight to Australia. It will be over Saudi Arabia again. So you understand that we have more than the formal relations in the Middle East. We are very active in building informal relations in the Middle East, and Saudi Arabia is only one example, the most known, but it's not the only one. We are in contact with elements in Libya. We are in contact with elements in Sudan. I can tell you that through Australians' bridges, we have with the countries, with Muslim countries in the East, that might be something more than that in the future. Israel is very active. We are enhancing our relations with Cyprus and with Greece. The European Union is going to finance electricity cable from Europe through Greece, Crete, and Cyprus into Israel, and Israel will stop to be an island when it is coming to electricity. We will be in a position to import and to export electricity to Europe. We enhance the relations with Azerbaijan, which is a country with borders with Iran. They have now an ambassador in Israel. I met him 2 weeks ago. Very smart guy, and they understand that it is their interest and our interest to enhance the relations. So Israel is not sitting on its hand. And I don't speak about the military preparations that we are doing, enhancing our capability to defend and to attack. I'm not pessimistic. A war with Hezbollah will be a devastating one, no question. But if we will be smart and we use all the capabilities that we have, we might end it with destroying the military capabilities of the organization, and then the sky is the only limitation that we will have. We will have to decide what we are doing, and how we are acting in a world in which we, after an operation, Hezbollah is very weak. What will happen in Lebanon if we succeed to do it? I don't know. So no, Israel is very active. We are not active in the minute we are deciding tomorrow to attack the Hezbollah. But the preemptive attack is on the table, and someone in Israel will have to make a decision. It's not an easy in democracies. It's one of the most problematic decisions. And because we know that the war will be devastating, it is even more complicated. But we might come to the conclusion one day that it is the best time to do it. I'm not saying that it is. We don't exclude it. We don't like it, but we don't exclude it. But a war might be ended with very positive situation from the Israeli point of view, in spite of the fact that the price will be very high. By the way, we are enhancing even the existing anti-missile system that we have. It's not just the laser. We are working very hard to learning from all the lessons that we had in the previous operations, how to enhance the systems that we have, and we are doing it. You know, probably that Germany decided to buy the Arrow. That will be the main anti-missile system of Germany and all Europe. Because if Germany will have it, the best way to deal with the threats in the future is to buy more Arrow systems, to build a network around Europe, which will defend Europe. It's a big decision of the Germans that was approved by the Americans, because the Arrow, unlike the Iron Dome, which is an Israeli system, the Arrow and David Sling are both 50-50, us and the Americans. So the Americans approved it. It will be the biggest project of the military industry in Israel, the biggest exported system, value-wise, and it's only the beginning of it. Europe will decide to broaden the capabilities. It probably will be another era. Yes, sorry, Greg.
No, it's okay. How do you think Nasrallah views Israel at present?
Smart question, I have to admit. First of all, I think that Nasrallah understands that basically Israel is very strong, and even strong, and becoming even stronger if we understand the implication of the of some of the steps that we are doing. We build a massive barrier on the ground between Israel and Lebanon, that the special forces that he has on the line cannot cross it like by walking as they could in the past. And in a way, it neutralized the threat of these special forces that he put on the front, or at least reduce their threat. He understands the meaning of a laser anti-missile system. It means that Israel, with such an economic burden, can defend itself against the big numbers of the missiles and the rockets. And I think that he understands by his instinct that the war will be devastating from his point of view, and he has in his head the 2006 operation, during which we succeeded to destroy the center of the command of control of Hezbollah in South Beirut, and the suffering of the people from the Shiite, all of them Shiites, from the results of this operation. So I think that in his instinct, he understands that Israel is much stronger than in the past, and can destroy Hezbollah. But he understands at the same time that his position as an organization who can destroy facilities in Israel, something that he didn't have in the past. You need very pinpoint targeting capabilities with the more accurate warheads than he had in the past. And today he has not so many, but slowly is building this capability. I think this is psychologically the point in which he feels that he can harm Israel much more than in the past. And this is very important, because for his calculation, this capability is very important to show that he can cope with Israel. Yes, Israel can destroy Lebanon, but he can make a lot of damage to Israel. So for him, it's very important. And I think this is the tipping point in which he changes attitude. And the second element is his assessment that Israel is not ready to take risks that Israel was ready to take in the past. And we led him to this assessment by not retaliate when it was needed. I published a paper after the agreement with the Lebanese about the gas that might be the results. Not everyone in Israel liked my assessment, but I wrote that might be we might lead Nasrallah to believe that Israel is not ready to take the risk for another operation, and that for itself is a very problematic from our point of view relating to his assessment of the Israeli strength. So if you ask about what you think about Israel capabilities, you think that Israel is very strong, maybe stronger than in the past. What was changed, that he believed that he can make more harm to Israel and destroy some facilities in Israel that in the past he couldn't. And this is very important for him. And his assessment of the risk-averting dynamic in Israel, that Israel will do whatever is needed to not to go to a new operation. In a way, he believed that his deterrence worked stronger than in reality. And this is the point in which he might make a mistake.
Okay. Thank you very much. Unless there is another question, I want to wish everybody Shana
Thank
Tova.
you.
Shana
Shana
Tova.
Tova.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you very much for the and Greg personally. Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.